It is one of the great paradoxes of our age. Humanity can split the atom, edit the genome, and land machines on other worlds, yet we still do not fully understand what lies beneath our very feet. We look outward with telescopes powerful enough to glimpse galaxies billions of light years away, yet inward, into the planet that sustains us, we remain humbled by mystery. The Earth, this rock we call home, is still, in many ways, a stranger. Consider this: buried beneath the crust we stand on, beneath the mantle that shifts and churns, lies Earth's core, a sphere of molten iron, surrounding a solid inner ball of nearly pure metal. It spins. It hums. It is the dynamo that generates the magnetic field shielding us from solar radiation, the hidden furnace that drives plate tectonics, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. In short, it is the beating heart of our world. And yet, recent evidence suggests that this heart may be slowing down. Pause on that thought. The inner core, once thought to spin faster than the surface, racing ahead like the second hand of a clock, may now be decelerating. Some models even suggest it could be reversing direction relative to the mantle. Imagine the implications. A part of Earth we never see, never touch, silently changing pace in ways that could ripple across the planet. It sounds like science fiction, but it is science fact. Seismologists, studying the echoes of earthquakes as they pass through the deep Earth, have detected subtle shifts, tiny differences in how waves travel through the inner core compared to decades past. These shifts suggest that something fundamental has changed in the rotation of Earth's deepest layer. Now, what does it mean for you, for me, for humanity? It doesn't mean the world will stop turning tomorrow, but it does remind us of something profound. Beneath the surface of stability lies constant change. We think of Earth as solid, immovable, eternal. But it is not. It is restless, layered, dynamic, a planet still alive, still evolving, still keeping secrets. And this is where the metaphor deepens. For what is true of Earth is true of us. On the surface, we present order, nations, economies, institutions, but beneath that surface churn forces we barely comprehend. Human ambition, fear, division, creativity. Civilizations, like planets, are shaped not by what is visible, but by what stirs below. And just as Earth's core might slow, so too can the inner engines of progress, of curiosity, of compassion falter if we are not vigilant. But let us not rush. To appreciate this mystery, we must journey back in time to when humanity first began asking what lies beneath. Ancient cultures imagined the underworld, Hades, Sheol, Xibalba, subterranean realms of gods and spirits. The ground was not rock, but a threshold. The idea of a molten metallic heart spinning deep below would have been inconceivable. For most of our history, Earth's interior was as unknowable as the stars. It was only in the 20th century, with the advent of seismology, that we began to glimpse the truth. Earthquakes, destructive on the surface, became tools of revelation beneath. Seismic waves ripple through Earth, bending, refracting, reflecting. By studying their paths, scientists mapped an invisible world, a crust, a mantle, an outer core of liquid iron, and an inner core of solid metal suspended within. A nested structure, like Russian dolls, with a heart of iron keeping time for the planet. For decades, we believed that hearts spun slightly faster than the rest of the Earth. Now, we suspect it may be slowing, but why? And what does it tell us, not just about geology, but about ourselves? Because here's the humbling truth. We live at the mercy of forces we cannot see. Earth's magnetic field, generated by that spinning core, shields us from cosmic radiation. Without it, solar winds would strip away our atmosphere, boil our oceans, and render Earth as barren as Mars. Civilization exists because the planet protects us. And that protection depends on the restless, unseen dance of molten iron thousands of kilometers below our feet. So when we learn that the core may be slowing, we are not just studying a curiosity of geology. We are listening to the heartbeat of the Earth itself, a heartbeat that sustains us, even as we barely understand it. The slowing of Earth's core is not the kind of news that splashes across headlines with alarm bells. It doesn't make stock markets crash or politicians scramble. It unfolds in the silence of seismographs, in the subtle signatures of waves that most people never think about. But it is precisely this kind of hidden story that reminds us how fragile our assumptions of stability are. Because what we call solid ground is anything but. The Earth is layered like a living organism, and each layer moves, flows, breathes in its own way. The crust, the thin rind upon which we live, is cracked into plates that drift like rafts across a molten sea. These plates carry continents, mountains, oceans, and us, colliding and pulling apart in a slow-motion ballet that builds and destroys landscapes over millions of years. Beneath the crust lies the mantle, a realm of rock that flows like molasses over geologic time, driving the restless drift of continents. And deeper still, the outer core, a churning ocean of molten iron, swirling and convecting, generating the magnetic shield that makes Earth habitable. At the center of it all lies the inner core, solid despite its blistering heat, locked in a slow, mysterious dance of rotation. For most of human history, none of this was known. To our ancestors, the ground felt immovable. Mountains stood as eternal monuments. The idea that continents wander, that mountains rise and fall, that oceans open and close was unthinkable. The ground beneath their feet was the one thing they could trust. And yet, the very instruments of modern science have revealed that the Earth is as restless as the cosmos. Stability is an illusion. Change is the only constant. The discovery of plate tectonics in the mid-20th century was itself a revolution. A reminder that our planet is alive with motion. And now, as we peer deeper into the heart of Earth, we discover that even the core, the very thing we thought most stable, may not keep a steady beat. That even the heart of the planet can shift, slow, and alter its rhythm. What does that mean for us? Not the end of the world, not apocalypse, but perspective. A reminder that our lives, our histories, our civilizations are cradled in a world more dynamic than we ever imagined. A reminder that what feels permanent, the land beneath our feet, the climate we take for granted, the fields and rivers we rely on, are products of invisible processes we barely understand. And here lies the paradox. We think of ourselves as masters of technology, as lords of Earth, as a species that bends nature to its will. And yet beneath us churns a planet that does not ask our permission, that has been evolving for 4.5 billion years. That will continue long after we are gone. Our skyscrapers, our nations, our empires, they are temporary. The Earth's core is patient. It moves on scales of time we cannot comprehend, and yet it holds in its restless motions the conditions that make us possible. Pause with me here. Imagine that inner core a sphere of iron, hotter than the surface of the sun, slowly turning in darkness no human eye will ever see. For billions of years it has spun, driven by the dance of heat and gravity, by the slow cooling of the planet, by the forces that shaped our world, and now perhaps it slows. Imagine if you could hear it, a deep cosmic drumbeat, steady and powerful, now shifting its tempo. What would that sound like? What would it mean to us to know that the heart of the Earth itself is changing its rhythm? The poet in me says this: it is a reminder that change is not to be feared, but understood. The scientist in me says this: it is a challenge to probe deeper, to refine our models, to push the boundaries of seismology and geophysics. The human in me says this: it is a lesson in humility. For the slowing of the Earth's core is not a headline about doom, but a quiet whisper from the planet that bore us, saying, I am still alive, I am still changing. You exist at my mercy. And if we listen closely, there is another whisper layered beneath, a philosophical one, that what lies beneath matters as much as what lies above. That just as the core of the Earth shapes the destiny of the surface, the core of our humanity, the values, the compassion, the wisdom we cultivate, shapes the destiny of civilization. If the Earth's heart falters, the planet's systems tremble. If our moral core falters, our societies tremble. The parallels are not coincidence, they are perspective. History shows us how fragile civilizations are when their inner core weakens. The Roman Empire, outwardly strong, decayed from within until it collapsed. The Maya, masters of astronomy and architecture, suffered drought, war, and fragmentation until their great cities were abandoned. Even in modern times, nations that neglect the core of justice, of truth, of compassion, find themselves destabilized. The slowing of the Earth's inner core becomes a metaphor. Even when the surface looks stable, it is the unseen that determines survival. And yet, just as the Earth has endured for billions of years, so too can humanity endure if we learn to strengthen what lies within. The Earth will survive with or without us. The question is whether we will survive with it or perish by ignoring the lessons it teaches. So, when we hear that the Earth's core might be slowing, we should not ask only what it means for geology. We should ask what it means for us. Will we listen to the heartbeat of our planet? Will we learn from its fragility? Will we align our choices with the rhythms of a world that sustains us? Or will we, like antimatter colliding with matter, cancel ourselves out through division, through arrogance, through neglect? The choice is ours. If the Earth's core is slowing, one of the most profound implications concerns the magnetic field. That invisible shield extending tens of thousands of kilometers into space is our guardian against the fury of the Sunday. Without it, the solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles, which strip away our atmosphere molecule by molecule, boil our oceans into space, and leave Earth as barren as Mars. Mars is our cautionary tale. Billions of years ago, Mars likely had rivers, lakes, perhaps even oceans. It had an atmosphere thick enough to keep water liquid at the surface. But Mars lacked the internal dynamo that powers Earth's magnetic field. Its smaller size allowed its core to cool more quickly, its magnetic shield faded, and the sun took the rest. Today, Mars is a frozen desert, its atmosphere thin, its oceans long gone. Not because life was impossible there, but because the planet lost its heart. Venus, too, offers a lesson. Roughly Earth's twin in size, it orbits just a little closer to the Sunday. But Venus also lacks a global magnetic field. Its surface is scorched at nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Its atmosphere dense with carbon dioxide, crushing at 90 times the pressure of Earth's. Solar wind and runaway greenhouse gases work together to turn Venus into a hellscape. The difference between Earth and its neighbors is not simply luck. It is the invisible, tireless work of a molten core that continues to churn, to spin, to shield. So when we say the Earth's core might be slowing, we are not just talking about an academic curiosity. We are talking about the very heartbeat of our survival. If the dynamo weakens, the magnetic field weakens. If the shield fades, Earth is laid bare to the cosmos. Now, does this mean doom is imminent? No. The magnetic field has waxed and waned throughout Earth's history. It has even flipped, with the North and South poles trading places dozens of times in the past. These reversals did not erase life, but they remind us of something critical. The stability we take for granted is always provisional. The invisible shield that protects us is not permanent. It depends on the restless motion of iron thousands of kilometers below us, a motion we barely understand. And perhaps in that humbling realization lies a lesson for humanity itself. For just as the Earth's shield depends on what lies beneath, so too does the shield of civilization depend on what lies beneath its surface. Not the skyscrapers, not the borders, not the armies or the economies, but the values, the trust, the knowledge, the compassion that churn unseen, yet sustain everything visible. History is filled with civilizations that built great monuments, powerful armies, vast wealth, and yet when their inner dynamo faltered, their shields collapsed. Rome, once invincible, cracked not from invasion alone, but from the erosion of civic virtue, of trust, of cohesion. The Maya, brilliant astronomers, fell not just to drought, but to division. The Soviet Union, with its towering rockets and arsenals, dissolved when its inner foundations crumbled. Each collapse is a reminder. It is not always the visible that matters most, but the invisible. The Earth's core may be slowing, but it is still alive. Our question is, are we? Because here's the paradox of our age. We have built technologies that can listen to the whispers of earthquakes passing through the inner core, that can measure the faintest tremors of iron spinning thousands of kilometers below our feet. We can detect gravitational waves from colliding black holes halfway across the universe. And yet, in the midst of this cosmic awareness, we struggle to listen to one another. We argue over borders invisible from space, over divisions trivial in the grand scheme of the cosmos, while beneath us a planet spins, reminding us of our shared dependence on its fragile heartbeat. The Earth does not recognize nations. The magnetic field does not care who you vote for. The core does not slow for one people and not for another. These forces are planetary. They embrace all of us equally, and so must our response. And that is why the slowing of the Earth's core is not a cause for fear, but for perspective. It tells us, you are not separate. You are bound together. You exist because of what lies beneath you, and you will endure only if you honor it. In this way, Earth becomes not just a planet, but a teacher. Its geology is not mere science, but philosophy, written in molten iron and seismic waves. Its core is not just a mechanism, but a metaphor, a reminder that what sustains us is often invisible, and that survival depends on tending to what lies beneath. The story of Earth's core slowing down becomes even more compelling when we remember that this isn't the first time humanity has wrestled with the unseen forces beneath our feet. For millennia, people invented myths to explain the tremors of earthquakes, the fury of volcanoes, the heat that seemed to rise from the underworld itself. To the ancient Greeks, the underworld was the domain of Hades, a place beneath the surface where the souls of the dead resided. To the Norse, it was hell, a cold realm below. To the Maya, Xibalba was a vast, terrifying labyrinth under the earth. Across cultures, the intuition was the same. Beneath the apparent stability of the ground lay mystery, power, and danger. Though their explanations were mythological, their instincts were not entirely wrong. For indeed, beneath the crust lies immense power, churning restlessly, shaping mountains, birthing islands, fueling eruptions. What they lacked in science, they compensated with imagination. And what we now know, through seismology, confirms the truth they sensed, that the heart of Earth holds sway over life at the surface. It wasn't until the 20th century that we replaced mythology with physics. In 1906, Richard Dixon Oldham, studying seismic waves from earthquakes, deduced that Earth had a core distinct from the mantle. In 1936, Danish seismologist Inge Lehmann discovered that within the liquid outer core lies a solid inner core, an astonishing insight, achieved not with drills or machines, but with mathematics and patience. She listened to the echoes of the Earth, the way a physician listens to the heartbeat of a patient. In her honor, some call the boundary between the outer and inner core the Lehmann discontinuity. Since then, generations of scientists have refined our picture. They discovered that the core rotates, sometimes faster than the mantle, sometimes slower. They uncovered evidence of its role in powering the magnetic field. They tracked its subtle shifts across decades of earthquakes. And now they confront the possibility that it is slowing. What does that mean in the sweep of geologic time? The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Its inner core is thought to be about 1 billion years old, meaning that for most of Earth's history, there was no solid inner core at all, only a molten sea of iron at the center. The solid core we speak of today is itself a relatively recent development in planetary terms. That means we are not looking at a finished system, but a dynamic one still evolving. The slowing of the core may simply be part of its natural rhythm, a pendulum swinging over millennia, shifting speeds, reversing direction. It may be no cause for alarm, and yet, even if the consequences for physics are subtle, the consequences for philosophy are profound. For it reminds us that stability is never permanent. Even the heart of our planet changes with time. Even the foundation beneath all foundations is restless. How often do we build our lives, our societies, our ambitions on the assumption of permanence, that the climate will remain steady, that the rivers will keep flowing, that the soil will keep yielding, that the world beneath our feet will stay the same? And yet, history, both human and geologic, shows us otherwise. The climate has shifted, the rivers have moved, civilizations have fallen, mountains rise and erode, oceans open and close, the continents themselves drift. The Earth has never promised permanence. It has only promised change. The slowing of the core is another reminder of this truth. It says, do not take stability for granted. Do not confuse persistence with permanence. Do not imagine that the surface tells the whole story. And so, as we contemplate this invisible change deep within Earth, we are invited to contemplate ourselves. What is the core of humanity? What is the inner engine that keeps us alive as a species? Is it our technology, our economies, our armies? No, those are the surface. The true core of humanity is our curiosity, our cooperation, our capacity for wonder. It is the restless dynamo of imagination and compassion that sustains civilization. And like the Earth's core, that inner human dynamo can speed up or slow down. It can strengthen or weaken. It can protect or fail. The question is, will we nurture it or neglect it? Because just as Earth's magnetic field shields us from the solar wind, our moral and intellectual field shields us from annihilation. Without curiosity, ignorance consumes us. Without cooperation, conflict destroys us. Without compassion, cruelty erodes us. These are our shields, and they are generated, like the Earth's field, by the motion of what lies within. So when I hear that Earth's core might be slowing, I don't hear only the physics. I hear the metaphor. I hear the question, is humanity's core slowing too? Are we still restless in our pursuit of knowledge, or are we becoming complacent? Are we still generating the field of compassion that protects us, or are we letting division strip it away? Are we still aligned with the dynamo of curiosity that carried us to the moon? Or are we idling, distracted by trivialities while the world shifts beneath us? The Earth reminds us that survival is not automatic, that shields can weaken, that cores can falter, that endurance depends not on what lies above, but what lies beneath. And so the slowing of the Earth's core is not a warning of doom, but a whisper of responsibility. It says, take nothing for granted, tend to the invisible, strengthen the dynamo within. The magnetic field generated by Earth's core is not static. It shifts, drifts, weakens, strengthens, and sometimes flips entirely. The geologic record locked in the magnetized minerals of ancient rocks tells us that the north and south magnetic poles have reversed dozens of times over Earth's history. Sometimes the flips happen quickly, in less than 1,000 years. Sometimes they lingered in transition for much longer. These reversals are not merely curiosities. They are reminders that what we call north and south are conveniences, not constants. They are evidence that even forces we imagine as eternal are restless. Imagine living through such a reversal. Compasses pointing south instead of north. Navigation systems thrown into confusion. Auroras lighting skies far from the poles. For life on Earth, such events were survivable species endured. Ecosystems adapted. But for civilizations like ours, built on fragile technologies and delicate infrastructure, even subtle shifts in the field could carry consequences. Already, satellites must account for the South Atlantic anomaly, a region where Earth's magnetic field is unusually weak. There, cosmic rays penetrate deeper into the atmosphere, occasionally interfering with electronics in orbit. This anomaly is growing. Scientists suspect it is linked to changes in the motions of molten iron within the outer core. If the core's rotation slows or shifts, the field responds. And if the field weakens, our shield thins. Now, imagine the Earth without its magnetic field. Imagine solar particles tearing into the atmosphere, degrading ozone, bombarding the surface with radiation. The consequences would be catastrophic. And yet, Mars teaches us that such a fate is possible. Venus, too, whispers of what happens when shields fail. Earth alone of the inner planets retains a robust magnetic guardian, and that guardian depends on the restless spin of the core. So the slowing of Earth's inner core is not merely a detail. It is a reminder of how delicately balanced our survival really is. We owe our existence to forces invisible, buried thousands of kilometers below us. Forces that could change, not on human timescales, but on planetary ones, slow, relentless, indifferent. And here is the paradox. We live in an age where we think of ourselves as powerful, as though we command the Earth itself. We build cities that scrape the sky, machines that move mountains, networks that span the globe. But beneath it all, the true engine of our survival lies hidden in a molten sea of iron, beyond our reach, beyond our control. A core that spins, slows, shifts, reminding us that we are not the masters of this planet, but its guests. Yet there is also comfort in this. For just as Earth has endured the waxing and waning of its field, the shifting of its core, the reversals of its poles, so too have life and consciousness endured. 5 mass extinctions have swept the planet, asteroid strikes, volcanic cataclysms, ice ages, and yet life returned, adapted, evolved. The dinosaurs ruled for 160 million years before vanishing in a geological instant. Mammals, once scurrying in shadows, took their place. And here we are, conscious beings, reflecting on the very processes that made us possible. The slowing of the core, then, is not a prophecy of doom. It is a reminder of resilience, a reminder that change is the rule, not the exception, a reminder that survival belongs to those who adapt, who learn, who endure. And this, once again, mirrors humanity. For our civilizations, too, face reversals, anomalies, weakenings of the shield. When cooperation falters, when trust decays, when wisdom slows our shield thins, we become vulnerable, not to solar wind, but to division, conflict, self-destruction. The core of humanity, like the core of Earth, must keep moving to generate the field that protects us. Curiosity, compassion, cooperation. These are our molten iron, our dynamo. If they slow, the field weakens. If they reverse, civilization trembles. So the lesson is not fear, but responsibility. The Earth tells us survival is possible if you tend to the core. And perhaps this is why the space race mattered so much. For in reaching outward, we learn to look inward. The astronauts who traveled to the moon described not the surface they left, but the planet they saw from afar, small, fragile hole. The blue marble photograph was more than an image. It was a revelation. It showed us that Earth's core is not just iron and nickel, but all of us, together, sustained by forces we cannot see. The space race was humanity's first rehearsal for survival beyond Earth. But it was also a reminder of our dependence on Earth itself. No matter how far we travel, no matter what worlds we colonize, our story begins here, on a planet with a heart of iron, a shield of magnetism, a dynamo that sustains life. If Earth's core slows, our destiny slows with it. If humanity's core slows, our story falters. The challenge then is to keep moving, to keep the dynamo alive, to honor the unseen forces, geological, moral, intellectual, that sustain us. And this is where the metaphor finds its crescendo. The Earth's core, deep and hidden, whispers, "Do not neglect what lies beneath. Do not mistake surface strength for inner vitality. Do not assume survival without tending to the foundations." For just as a planet's shield depends on its core, so too does a species' future depend on its own. When we step back and view Earth in the context of deep time, the slowing of its core becomes part of a grander narrative, one written not in centuries or millennia, but in billions of years. Earth has been evolving since its fiery birth 4.5 billion years ago, when molten rock and iron clumped together under the pull of gravity. In those early days, the planet was a hellscape at surface, a sea of magma, bombarded constantly by asteroids, its air choked with volcanic gases. Yet even then, deep within, heavy elements like iron and nickel sank toward the center, forming the core whose restless spin still sustains us today. That was the beginning of Earth's heartbeat, and it has been beating ever since. But it will not beat forever. One day, perhaps billions of years from now, Earth's core will cool, its dynamo will fade, and its magnetic shield will vanish. Without that shield, solar wind will strip away the atmosphere, the oceans will evaporate, and Earth will grow cold and barren, like Mars. Long before the sun swells into a red giant and engulfs the inner planets, Earth's own internal fire will dim. The very dynamo that made life possible will cease. If that sounds bleak, consider this. The fact that we live in the golden era of Earth's dynamo, an era when the shield is strong, when the surface is fertile, when the climate is hospitable, is itself a staggering gift. We exist in a window of time when all the conditions align. Not too early, when the planet was molten chaos. Not too late, when the shield has faded. We are alive in the middle chapters, when Earth is most habitable. And this invites a question: what will we do with this moment? When scientists search for habitable exoplanets, they are not just looking for water and air. They are looking for planets with magnetic fields, with cores that still churn, with shields that still hold. A world without a magnetic field may have oceans briefly, but not for long. A world with a dying core may shine with possibility, but only for a moment. The cosmic truth is that habitability is not permanent. It is fleeting. It is precious. Which makes Earth not only our home, but our teacher. By studying its core, its magnetic history, its slowing dynamo, we learn not only about this planet, but about the fate of planets everywhere. We learn why Mars died, why Venus burned, why Earth endures. And in that knowledge lies wisdom, wisdom that might one day guide us as we seek new homes among the stars. But we must be careful, because if we cannot care for the one world we already have, what chance do we have of caring for others? If we cannot honor the shield that protects us, the dynamo that sustains us, the fragile balance that cradles us, what right do we have to imagine ourselves as explorers of the galaxy? This is where the slowing of Earth's core becomes more than geology. It becomes philosophy. It asks us, will you take stability for granted, or will you honor it while it lasts? Will you ignore the unseen forces that sustain you, or will you nurture them? And here, again, the metaphor becomes uncomfortably clear. Just as Earth's shield can weaken if its core slows, so too can our societies falter if our inner dynamo slows. If curiosity dims, ignorance rushes in. If compassion wanes, cruelty takes its place. If cooperation falters, division corrodes the shield that protects us. The slowing of the Earth's core is a reminder that nothing is guaranteed, not magnetic fields, not civilizations, not survival, but it is also a reminder of resilience. For even in past eras, when the field weakened, when poles reversed, when shields flickered, life endured, and so can we. That, perhaps, is the most important lesson. Earth has survived cataclysms, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, ice ages. Life has bent, but not broken. Survival is possible if adaptation is embraced, if resilience is cultivated, if the dynamo keeps moving, which brings us once again to humanity. We are the first species to understand the heartbeat of our planet, the first to measure the slowing of its core, the first to reflect on what it means. That awareness carries responsibility. It demands that we act not as careless tenants, but as stewards of a rare world in a rare moment. And if we succeed, if we learn from Earth's lessons, then perhaps one day we will carry that stewardship outward. Perhaps when Earth's dynamo finally cools billions of years from now, our descendants will live elsewhere, bearing with them the memory of the planet that first taught them how to endure. But that future depends on the choices we make now, whether we strengthen our own dynamo of curiosity and compassion, or whether we allow it to slow, weaken, and fade. The Earth's core may be slowing, but our story doesn't have to. Long before seismographs traced the hidden echoes of earthquakes, long before scientists mapped the layered anatomy of Earth, humanity imagined what lay beneath. We projected our fears, our hopes, our mysteries into the depths below. To the Greeks, the underworld was Hades, a shadowed realm, cold and inevitable, where all souls must journey. To the ancient Chinese, the earth contained 9 layers beneath the surface, each more mysterious than the last. In Hindu cosmology, Patala stretched downward into a series of subterranean worlds filled with serpents and spirits. The Aztecs envisioned Mictlan, the land of the dead, a place of trials and passage. What unites these visions is not their detail, but their intuition. Every culture seemed to sense that beneath the stable ground was something alive, powerful, essential. They knew, even without instruments, that the heart of the earth held sway over the surface. They felt earthquakes, watched volcanoes, lived through the upheaval of landscapes, and so they imagined gods and monsters beneath their feet. For what else could explain such restless power? Today, with science, we replace gods with physics, myths with models. But in a way, the awe remains the same. For what we now know that a ball of iron, hotter than the surface of the sun, spins in silence at the center of Earth is no less astonishing than any myth. It is a modern underworld, unseen yet vital, shaping our destiny in ways both subtle and profound. And perhaps the greatest lesson is that our ancestors, without seismographs or satellites, were not entirely wrong. They understood that what lies beneath matters more than what lies above. They understood that survival depends on forces we cannot always see. Their myths, in their own way, spoke truth. Ignore the underworld and you invite disaster. So when we hear that the Earth's core might be slowing, perhaps we should hear it not only as a scientific update, but as a myth retold in modern language. The gods are not angry. The iron is shifting. The underworld is not a realm of spirits. It is a realm of physics. But the lesson is the same. What lies beneath sustains what lies above. And when the balance shifts, life at the surface must adapt. Now let us draw the parallel to ourselves. Civilizations, like planets, have cores. The core of Rome was not its legions, but its civic order. The core of the Maya was not their pyramids, but their ecological balance. The core of any society is not its monuments, but its values, its unseen underworld of trust, cooperation, vision. When that core falters, the surface trembles. When it slows, the shield weakens. And so we return to the metaphor that has echoed throughout this story. The slowing of the Earth's core is not only a planetary event, but a mirror. It reflects our own need to tend to the inner dynamo that sustains us. But here is where the story rises. For unlike the Earth, which cannot choose its destiny, we can. The Earth's core slows according to the physics of heat and gravity. Our core, the human core of curiosity, compassion, and cooperation, slows or quickens by choice. We can choose to nurture it or neglect it. We can choose to strengthen the shield that protects us or allow it to fade. This is why the space race matters still, even half a century later. For in that era, at the height of human division, with nuclear weapons bristling and nations locked in rivalry, we chose, if only briefly, to quicken our core. We chose discovery over destruction. We chose to reach beyond Earth, and in doing so, we discovered Earth anew. The blue marble, the Earthrise, those images were not accidents. They were revelations. They showed us that the true core of humanity is not division, but unity. Not destruction, but wonder. Not annihilation, but endurance. And so, as Earth's heart slows, the question falls to us, will ours? Will the dynamo of human progress, of cosmic curiosity, of planetary stewardship continue to churn? Or will we, distracted by the surface, allow the core to falter? Because the future depends on the answer. If we quicken our core, if we strengthen the shield of compassion and curiosity, then Earth's slowing becomes not a threat, but a teacher. It reminds us that nothing is permanent, that survival is earned, that endurance is chosen. But if we allow ourselves to slow, to weaken, to falter, then the Earth's whisper becomes a warning ignored. The slowing of the Earth's core is not about physics alone. It is about perspective. It is the cosmos reminding us that what lies beneath in planets, in civilizations, in ourselves, is what determines whether we endure. When we peer into the night sky with our most powerful telescopes, we now know that Earth is not alone. Thousands of exoplanets have been discovered, orbiting stars light years away. Some are rocky, like Earth. Some are gas giants, like Jupiter. Some orbit close to their stars, scorched and barren. Others drift farther out, cold and lifeless. A precious few lie in what astronomers call the habitable zone, where liquid water might exist, where life could conceivably emerge. And yet, we must remind ourselves, habitability is not just about distance from a star, it is about what lies within. A planet may orbit in the right zone, may have oceans and air, and yet, without a churning core, without a magnetic shield, it may not endure. The slowing of Earth's core reminds us that survival is not only about where you are, but about what beats at your center. Imagine then the story of Earth told from afar. An alien civilization scanning the galaxy would see a small world orbiting an ordinary star, but with a rare gift: a magnetic shield, a stable climate, a flourishing biosphere. They would know, as we do now, that such worlds are rare, that stability is precious, that survival depends on forces hidden from view. And they might wonder, as we must, will this world endure? Will its core sustain it long enough for its life to flourish? Will its inhabitants learn to honor the shield that protects them? Or will they squander their moment, letting the dynamo of survival slow and falter? Because Earth's future is already written in the language of physics. The core will continue to cool. The dynamo will one day fade. The shield will weaken. The oceans will evaporate as the sun grows hotter in its middle age. Eventually, billions of years from now, Earth will be barren. The planet that sustained us will no longer sustain anything. That may sound like doom, but it is not. It is perspective. For we live now in the golden age, the age when the shield is strong, the oceans deep, the biosphere vibrant. We live in the rare window when existence is possible, when survival is not only a dream, but a reality. And the question is, what will we do with it? This is where the responsibility of humanity becomes cosmic. We are not only passengers on Earth, we are its consciousness. We are the only part of Earth that can reflect on its slowing heart, on its finite future, on its improbable gift. If we squander that awareness, if we let our own core slow, then Earth's story ends here with us. But if we honor it, if we choose endurance, then Earth's story continues carried outward into the galaxy by the very beings it gave rise to. Perhaps this is the deeper meaning of exploration, not conquest, not colonization, but continuation. The responsibility to carry the dynamo of life, the spark of consciousness, into the cosmos before Earth itself goes dark. And that brings us full circle back to the space race. For when we first left Earth, when we first looked back from space, we began to see our planet as it truly is: fragile, finite, precious. That was not only the beginning of space exploration, it was the beginning of planetary awareness. It was the first time we saw Earth not as a surface to be divided, but as a whole to be protected. The slowing of Earth's core reminds us that our planet's protection is not eternal. The shield weakens, the dynamo cools, the Earth changes. But our awareness, our ability to know, to act, to choose, is what can endure. The universe has given us this brief window, this golden age, this moment when survival is possible. The next move is ours. So here we are, living on a planet whose heart may be slowing, a sphere of molten iron, deeper than imagination, hotter than the sun's surface, has turned tirelessly for 1 billion years, shielding us from cosmic danger, making oceans possible, making life possible. Now we learn that its rhythm shifts, that its tempo changes. The core reminds us, in silence, that nothing is permanent. Not magnetic fields, not continents, not civilizations, not even life itself. And yet here we are, alive, aware, reflecting. The only part of Earth that knows its heart might be slowing is us. That knowledge is not just information, it is responsibility. Because what Earth's core does not have, we do. Choice. The iron spins according to physics, but humanity spins according to will. The Earth cannot decide whether its shield will endure, but we can decide whether ours will. We can choose whether the dynamo of curiosity, compassion, and cooperation keeps turning, or whether it slows, falters, and fails. That is why the space race was never only about rockets. It was about perspective. When astronauts looked back at Earth, they did not see borders. They did not see nations. They saw a fragile blue world, wrapped in the thin veil of an atmosphere, sustained by the invisible pulse of its core. They saw the truth, that we are one species sharing one planet bound by one destiny. The lesson is clear. If Earth's core slows, survival depends on adaptation. If humanity's core slows, survival depends on choice. We cannot control the iron at the center of the Earth, but we can control the fire at the center of ourselves. So let us choose to strengthen the shield of compassion. Let us choose to quicken the dynamo of curiosity. Let us choose to carry forward the restless, unyielding motion of cooperation that sustains civilization. Let us choose to honor the improbable gift of existence by ensuring it endures, because the Earth's story will continue with or without us. The question is whether our story will continue with it. And perhaps centuries from now, when humanity has spread to the stars, when our descendants look back on Earth not from the moon, but from other worlds, they will remember that we were the ones who listened to the heartbeat of the planet. That we were the ones who, when told the Earth's core might be slowing, chose not fear, but responsibility. Not despair, but wonder. Not silence, but endurance. The Earth has carried us this far. The rest is up to us.